And my guest today was born on the side of a road in Leicester in a caravan. And now he's one of the UK's richest men. Alfie Best left school at the age of 12 and threw himself into the world of business just 2 years later, buying and selling cars. Now, he was born into an impoverished gypsy family, and he's no stranger to hard times. He founded Europe's largest home park operator, Wyldecrest Parks. That was 15 years ago. And now it's valued at a whopping £500 million. Oh, yes, he also hit our screens appearing on My Big Fat Gypsy Fortune, as well as having a cameo in the film Once Upon a Time in London. The key to his success, he says, is 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration. Alfie Best has achieved the status of a successful entrepreneur and a multi-millionaire businessman. I'm pleased to say that Alfie joins me now. Alfie, my goodness, how does it feel being that rich?
I don't know, but with a build-up like that, I was looking around and finding out where that fella's gone.
Oh, that's you, that is. Did you, in your wildest dreams, imagine that you'd be in this position now?
No, I don't think... I think anybody that says they know their own journey, we can all, plan and hope what our journey's going to be, but we all come across obstacles along the way. So, no, to be fair, no.
So your childhood then, because it says you were born in Leicester. I mean, talk to me about what your upbringing was like and what gave you that drive to continue to, go forward and build so many different businesses.
I come from an extremely loving family. We were poor, but my mum and dad were, the best mum and dad anybody could ever want for. And to be fair, I didn't know that we were poor. You only know poverty when you get older and you see the difference in society. But for me, we didn't starve, but were we poor? Yeah. We did live on the side of the road. We lived in a caravan. My mum would cook outside on a pot, and that was the daily staple diet. But it wasn't bad. You only know your surroundings that's around you. And obviously I saw, the reason that, we lived on the side of the road is my mum and dad loved trucks and cars.
That's really fun. Bless them. They like trucks and cars, so they thought we'll just live on the side of a road.
I'm only kidding.
No, it's not true, is it? I believe that as well.
But, so look, yeah, I've had a blessed life. But as David Beckham said, the harder he practices, the luckier he seems to get. And for me, I've been blessed to love what I do. I worked my career, if you can put it as that, or my business career, has been one of self-taught education because I didn't really have any schooling. It was periodic that I went to school, and I never went to school past 12 years old. And I was out working with my dad most of the time after that. And I went through several different businesses, from van and truck sales to van and truck hire, to mobile communications and mobile phones, then into commercial property, and now into what our main business is, which is retirement mobile home parks. And that's the business that I found my passion in. And when people, in this country, we are only just starting to embrace business and entrepreneurship. Before, it was frowned upon to discuss finance and figures and money. And I think that's where America had the edge on us. They've promoted business entrepreneurs so much more than the UK has. The UK, unless you're an actor or a sports personality, as a businessman, we've only ever had really three, and Freddie Laker, Richard Branson and Alan Sugar.
Well, and you, that's four.
Well, for me, all I'm doing is hopefully shouting from the rooftops that anybody can do it. If somebody like me can do it, and I'm not a smart man, then believe me, anybody can do it.
Well, I think because at school, the kind of qualities I think an entrepreneur demonstrates are not really valued in a sense. I think they often at school, their focus is on if you're really good at history, if you're really good at something where you can just rope-type learning, where you can just literally learn something, stare at it, learn it, and then repeat it the way it's meant to be and present it the way they want it. But
I'm going to be honest with you, I think that our education system is broken.
Yeah.
And if I can explain what I mean.
Well, I agree with you, actually.
When you take your driving test, when you're doing your driving test, you take your theory. So you learn the laws of the road, your signpost, and, basically what your academics are. But they don't then give you the keys when you pass your theory. They don't say, there's the keys, now you can drive. You now have to sit beside somebody and you have to do the practical. So you learn to actually physically drive on the road. Whereas in school, you take your exams, your GCSEs or O-levels or whatever they are today, and as soon as you pass them, you get given the keys to the world and you're on your own. But you're not only on your own, you're on your own in debt. So for me, shouldn't it be not only the academic, but the practical side as well, to actually nurture people into business, to find their passion?
But did you have that, though? Because you left school at 12. Was it your father who was the person who nurtured you through those businesses?
Look, I was thrown in at the deep end, and from the age of 12 to 16, I was knocking on doors selling tarmac. And that's the hardest job in the world, because, knocking on the door saying to somebody that you're resurfacing someone else's drive down the street, would you be interested in having yours done, is soul destroying. But what it also done was taught me how to read people, because you had 90 seconds in which to sell your pitch, and if you didn't, the door was getting slammed. So you got to read people's demeanour quite well. That set me up as far as I'm concerned. And it also made me a little bit more thick-skinned, being able to, in the UK we are a polite nation. And you only see that the more and more you travel the world, you realise how polite we are. And I think that's also a skill set, to know when to be polite and when to be firm.
Do you think that because there is an argument, there's this whole sort of kind of softly, everyone must win, this kind of what people might class as a woke culture that's evolving. Do you think that can be a little bit damaging in a sense, because it's almost mollycoddling people and not giving them a sort of expectation that when they come up, that's the way it's going to be? Whereas in reality, it's totally the opposite.
If you give a man a crutch, he will eventually become a cripple, because we rely on it. And it is in any form. And I say it the way I really see it. And I think that what we're doing with people is, instead of nurturing them forward, we're supporting them. And that's fine to support people, and I'm all for that. But that support should come in more of a way to help. Give a man a fishing rod and he'll feed his family for the rest of his life. Give him a fish and he feeds tonight.
So what's your views then of, obviously, the government coming out and helping people with the energy support and these packages that are, the whole lockdown scenario where people were given money to keep their... I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Here's my view on that. Of course that is something the government should be doing, because these are unprecedented times where energy rates have trebled, and they're going to continue. And unfortunately, of no doing or no making of the people that they're supporting. So in our great country, and I use the word great because we are great, and the people that make it great are the British people. We're now a multicultural people that are taking the blessings from every creed, colour or race. But we've only just started to do that in the last 20 years. Before that, we didn't. Now we've become, in my view, more Americanised. Our staple diet was half empty. So you had Coronation Street and EastEnders, and everybody was either suicidal or lost their job. You never see anybody win the lottery, whereas America had Friends and Cheers, and it was upbeat. social media, I believe, has started to change that in the English culture, and people are now seeing that you can do it if you want it bad enough. And for me, I give speeches, which I'm blessed to do, because I feel if I get to change one person's life to succeed, I haven't just changed his life, I've changed his whole family's life. And I think that's so important for all of us. And even down to people like yourself that are spreading the story of good, positive, natured stories, showing, hold on, this can happen. This is real. And for me, sorry if I get a bit passionate about it, but for me, that's what we need more of. And we need more of that in the UK.
I would say so, here to that, because I think all the time we seem to be dumbing this country down and saying, not appreciating how brilliant this country is. I've travelled a lot, and for me, this is the most pleasant, it is the most polite, it is the most welcoming, the least racist country that I've ever had the fortune to be in, and I'm glad I live here. Alfie, for those people who are sort of watching and thinking, what is there some secret behind being a billionaire or being successful? If there was one pearl of wisdom that you could pass to someone to help them move forward, what would that be?
Okay. One answer is persistence. It's persistence. If you take a small hammer and keep tapping at a cliff side, you will put a tunnel through it. It just takes time. Now, what I would say is this, and persistence is the key in everything. But I lost everything when I was 20 years old. I lost everything that I'd worked for. And I was a millionaire at the age of 20. And I suffered a murmur and collapsed across the desk. And, you know, they're life's lessons, that what happened to you or happened to me. And when I tell the story, I get the hairs that come up the back of my neck, because the mistake I made there was I started to believe my own hype. I started to believe what I was telling myself. And the one thing that I can tell anybody, it is imperative to be positive, but always be calculatedly positive. Never over-egg it to yourself, and always be true to your own thoughts. We can tell ourselves how good it is, but we've always got to be able to go, hold on, what is the positive way forward? And if that goes wrong, what's the backstop? And I didn't have a backstop. And I moved out of the house that I was in. I put a mattress in the back of an escort van and slept in the escort van for nearly 6 months. The reason I moved out was because if I hadn't moved out and rented the house, I wouldn't have been able to have paid the mortgage and kept the house. And I was lucky, because the negative that was killing me at the time actually turned out to be the positive that saved me from going bankrupt. And that was a thing called negative equity. Because I owed more than the property was worth, because property prices tumbled by nearly 60%.
I remember that time, yeah.
And all of a sudden, now, as long as I was paying the mortgage, the bank were there to help. And a lot of people criticise banks, but to me, I'm an advocate of all banks, because a bank is there as a business. And what you should remember is when they're giving you mortgages or loans, they're your business partner. So it is imperative to be open, an open book, and be true with your bank. Now, I then went into mobile phones, and I found a niche in the market, and I got to 30 and I made £5 million, which was a phenomenal amount of money. I was richer than I'd ever thought I'd ever going to be in my life. And I can honestly say to you, through blood, blisters and tears, I can tell you where every penny and pound came from. And I was 30 then.
Wow.
Since then, my company is actually worth 1.2 billion today. But I couldn't tell you how I actually earned that. And the reason I say that honestly is the company took on a life of its own. I found my passion, which is park home living. I see it as the solution to affordable housing, and not could be, not would be, it is solving part of the affordable housing crisis that we have here in the UK.
Well, listen, Alfie, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. If people want to find out more about this and about what you're doing, do you have somewhere they can go?
The name of my company is called Wyldecrest Parks. I'd love them to look up on it because as far as we're concerned, this is the solution. And especially heading into the downturn we're in, I think it's going to be where people are actually living their best life and still being able to do so.
Alfie, thank you so much for coming to talk to me.
Pleasure's mine.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
That is Alfie Best. He's a billionaire. He's an entrepreneur.